This episode is sponsored by Romanwell. Living with IBD can be all-consuming, and the existing healthcare system is not set up to provide patients with the ongoing support they need. The dietitians at Romanwell believe that all people with IBD deserve access to the highest quality, evidence-based care available. They also know there's no one-size-fits-all solution to IBD, but there is one that fits you. If you're interested in getting back to living your best life instead of living under the constraints of your disease, head on over to romanwell.com to apply for a complimentary consultation and tell them Alicia and Robin sent you.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Robin, and you're listening to Bowel Moments,
the podcast sharing real talk about the realities of IBD. Served on the rocks. This week, Robin and I had the joy of recording together, and we were joined by Eitan Kling-Levine. We discussed with him living and dating in New York City, legislative advocacy and telling his story very publicly, talking to his doctor about his sexuality, having healthy skepticism and involvement in his healthcare, and so much more. Cheers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. This is Robin.
What a terrible time to drink. And this is Alicia, and we're in the same room. It's so exciting.
We're
Yay.
in the same,
cheers.
Sitting next to each other.
Cheers into the microphone.
Yes.
Yay. Cheers to our guest who is cheersing us on the Zoom. Thank you. Guys, today we are really excited. We are joined by Eitan, and we've known each other for a few years now. And so I'm really excited to have you on the show because I know you have a lot of valuable things to say. So Eitan, we're going to ask you to tell us about yourself, but at the moment we're going to ask you, what are you drinking?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad to be part of this, Robin. It's so good to meet you. I feel like based on our correspondence, we already know each other, but and Alicia, so great to see you via Zoom again. What am I drinking? I'm drinking Chardonnay. I'm typically more of like a Sauvignon Blanc girl, but today's Chardonnay.
I like it, as am I. When we were together, we did not get to drink together. I feel like this is now a big shame. So we're going to have to find this. We're going to have to find this time because I love a good Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah.
Agreed.
What are we drinking, Alicia?
I just handed Robin a wine. I just was like, here, drink this. We are drinking a rosé, and I believe it's from Oregon. Yes, because it's quite warm here in New Orleans.
It is.
So, so rosé.
Rosé all day.
Love it. Rosé for the summer.
Exactly. Again, super excited to have you. Tell us about, why are you part of this IBD community? Tell us your story.
Okay, so I'll give big, broad brushstrokes, but
we love a good brushstroke.
I know. A good
Sorry. So that was too easy.
Yeah. But okay, so I was studying in my senior year at NYU in college. It was 2014. I was actually studying abroad for part of my senior year, and really out of nowhere, I just was not feeling good. I was having diarrhea all the time, and I had to start to navigate the Parisian healthcare system, which was really interesting, and met with a few doctors there and got my very first colonoscopy in Paris. It was pretty frightening, to be honest, to just get put under and not have, your parents there and whatnot. And they diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis in the fall of 2014. And I was able to get put on some good steroids to keep me stable for a period of time, but the steroids didn't last that long. And I was kind of up and down during my time in Paris. And then by the time that I got home, my body just totally crashed. I think it was trying to keep itself together for some level of time while I was studying. And then, I got home, winter of 2014 into 2015. And what ensued was 6, 7, 8 months of just tons of pain and losing weight and trying different therapies and medications and working with a fabulous doctor network in Boston, Massachusetts, to kind of find something to keep me at bay. Nothing was really working. Had, some issues with insurance companies being able to properly pay for medications that my doctors wanted to take. Alicia and I worked a lot on some of that insurance policy stuff. And then I finally opted to make, I think, a really difficult decision to get surgery, the J-pouch surgery, as it's known in the IBD community. And I had to get it in 3 parts. And so that kind of took me into, into 2016 was my 3rd part, but I was so weak. I was malnourished, totally underweight. And so it took a while to regain strength and regain confidence and the mental and emotional, taxing of the past year and a half plus. And so finally, after, I would say 2 years or so of just like total life on pause, I was able to move back to New York. I magically graduated during all of this.
Magically. I feel like
truly, it was a magic trick.
I don't think that that's true, but okay.
Well, I by chance had completed all of my necessary coursework a semester early.
By chance.
By chance. Yeah, overachieve over here. And so I was able to move back to New York and slowly start to like wend my way into quote unquote a new normal and back into social settings and figure out where my comfort levels were and really start to relearn and adapt to my new body. And, thankfully, knock on something, I haven't had too many complications since, but it's so hard to wrap my head around how different my body is now than how it was, 7-8 years ago, and that it will never be the same. So that's kind of been my story. And so here we are.
I mean, you've talked about that too. So, Robin and one of our friends of the show, Stacy, who was on one of our first episodes, they both talk a lot about how your body has changed post J pouch and how you have to relearn things and get used to things. So I know that that relates for you a lot.
Oh, 100%. It's the funny part about it is I actually had my colon removed 20 years ago when I was diagnosed, but they didn't give me a J pouch. I did not have a permanent ostomy, but I had an ileal rectal anastomosis. So they left part of my rectum. And so I thought after I had the J pouch surgery that it would be, a breeze, right? Because I haven't had a colon for 20 years. So this adjustment is not going to be a problem, but it really is. It's completely different. Like I really have to relearn or discover. That's a better word. I have to discover how my body operates now.
Yes.
It's like a process of discovery.
Yeah, it totally is a self-discovery and everyone's different, right? Like what works for one person isn't going to work for someone else. And I think people don't think about how many elements of your life it can touch, whether it's in a social setting or with a partner or sexually or just in everyday life. Like it can touch on so many things. And it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around, when I decided to get the surgery, none of those elements were in my head. I just wanted to get better. I was thinking of the like acute need to get better. So it's a total self-discovery.
And I think that's a real area of opportunity for doctors' offices too, to like say, they just gave you the mechanics of the surgery, right? They're like, this is what we're going to do. These are the steps. This is what we'll do. But there isn't and you're going to have to learn that you can't fart or that you can fart suddenly.
Yeah.
Or, you're going to have to learn how to hold it in a different way and learn cues that you used to know before that you have to poop. And
it feels different.
Yeah.
It feels different now.
Yeah. It totally feels different. And I don't know, Robin, I guess you've kind of been in this game for a little bit, but for me, when I was initially sick, I didn't know the questions to ask.
No.
I didn't even think. And now I've learned so much. I have I would say a very healthy skepticism whenever I go into a doctor's office.
Yes.
But I didn't think. I did not even research the drugs that they were putting me on. I was just like, great, put me on it. I never Googled the drug, which is shocking. To me now, I Google everything. I take ownership of my own health, and it's more of a partnership than a doctor dictating what's best for you to take.
But you're healthy now.
Totally. But there's still, tweaks here and there. And maybe they want to introduce something, or I'm working with a nutritionist and she's thinking about this diet or whatnot. And I want to look it up. I want to be informed. And I was so not informed as a patient. And it's just a different paradigm.
Well, also
when you're so sick. Yeah. When you're so sick, you're like,
even now, sometimes I'm feeling really good now, like better than I have in years, which is it's phenomenal to me. I wake up every day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I feel this good. So even when things don't feel great, I'm like, I still feel so much better. Right. Which is a hard thing to do because then you start normalizing. And then, when you don't feel good, you're like, oh, but at least it's better than before. But I digress. I
No, I think
digress always.
I don't think you did, because I think what you said is actually really profound. I mean, I've learned to have more gratitude, and you do. You have to take every single breath, every single day, not for granted. And for people who have been sick for a large chunk of their lives, like it can be maybe easier to find those pockets of gratitude, but it's hard sometimes when you're just in the throes of your day-to-day life to take a second and think, wow, like I feel good today.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
Or thank whoever.
Whenever you feel that way too, after feeling bad, like sometimes I just am exhausted. Like I don't want to message my doctor and say, hey, this happened today. I know I'm the team captain of this team, this care team. I'm the captain, but sometimes I'm like, gosh, I don't want to be the team captain anymore.
Yeah.
I want somebody else to take care. I want someone else to take care of me. I want someone else to send me a little message and says, hey, you haven't gotten your blood work done yet and you really need to. So I'm just going to send somebody to your house to do your blood. Like that would be amazing.
We'll work on this. This will be the next step for bowel moments. Concierge
medical.
You really should. I mean, we could go down a whole rabbit hole of how fucked up the healthcare system is and how the onus is so much on the patient, but that's probably like a whole other hemisphere.
I mean, we definitely we'll book more time with you because
okay, great.
We're gonna need a lot more wine and a lot more time to do that because
I am balancing my wine with a water bottle just to like
well done you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Can I back you up a little bit though, because you mentioned you were diagnosed in Paris and that you got to navigate the Parisian healthcare system.
Wait, you were diagnosed in Paris?
Yes.
Okay.
Paris.
Yes. Please explain.
Yes.
Okay. I need to think back. I remember talking to actually one of my teachers, and I had to tell them this uncomfortable reality that I was facing. And they recommended their like gastroenterologist. And it was so interesting because the doctor office was like an apartment complex. Their office itself felt like you were in someone's office in their apartment. Like it didn't feel, I guess in my mind, it felt a little bit less, I don't know, official than some of the other doctor offices that we're used to going to, the exam rooms and whatnot. So that was a first piece. I also, obviously, there's the language barrier. I got my colonoscopy at a hospital, funny enough, called the American Hospital. And, but even so, I remember I woke up from the colonoscopy and the doctor like immediately told me like, oh, you have ulcerative colitis. I actually have to go on vacation like later this evening and I'll be out for the next 3 weeks. Bye. And literally started walking out the door. And my friend had to like chase him down and be like, wait, no, come on back. We have a few questions for you. It was kind of wild. I'm trying to think of any other unique experiences. It was honestly just scary, to be honest, to have to navigate more doctor's appointments than I think I had ever had in my life by myself in a foreign country.
I can't imagine that, having to do that, navigate that in a foreign country. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is it easier than navigating it in this country? I mean, at least
who knows?
Right.
Who knows? And thankfully I have insurance because I was in school. And so that was managed for me. So I didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, and their pharmacies are different. It's a true pharmacy. So I couldn't go and also get, I don't know, other items that I might get at a CVS while I was picking up my medication. I had to go somewhere else for that to get like pads or whatever I was getting. But yeah, there were a lot of uncomfortable accidents of like truly shitting in my pants. But thankfully, all of them happened when I was with like some of my closest friends. And now we laugh about it, which is, shows what time can do.
We talk about shitting your pants on this show. Several past guests, Stacy, Caroline actually got to the point where she's like, I promise I don't shit my pants all the time, because she had so many stories. And she's like, wait, this is all I'm talking about. I promise this doesn't happen all the time. We're like, no judgment. It was excessive, but no, she told 3 stories.
It happens. It's par for the course, right?
Please. I mean, 22 years, I've shit my pants.
Yeah. Look, you know what? You clean it up and you move on.
That's right. That's why you have a go bag. That's why you have extra clothes with you. That's why you travel with like Cottonelle wet wipes. Like that's why you have these things.
My best friends now. Yes. The Cottonelle wet wipe.
They're the best ones. Anyone who's listening, look, we are not sponsored by Cottonelle. Not sponsored.
But that's a good idea.
I have tried over the course of 22 years, multiple brands, and Cottonelle is the best for the wet wipe.
Yeah.
Specifically the wet wipe.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
to know.
Agreed.
I'm glad that you agree with me.
Oh yeah, they're stocked.
Yeah.
Stocked in
I have
the-
strong feelings about them, especially at the beginning of the pandemic when everyone was buying toilet paper. And I'm like, look, people,
Yeah, what are you doing?
do you go to the bathroom as much as me? I don't think so.
My husband just installed a bidet. He's like, forget it.
That's goals though. I would love to have a bidet.
I'll have my husband work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
He installed it and everything, so we're good.
Have your people
Great.
call his people.
Exactly.
Yeah. I see
Let's
that.
talk about advocacy because you know
Yes.
how much I love it, you
Yes.
know, and you referenced it.
We do love it.
That's true. Robin loves it too.
I love it too.
So you and I, when we first met each other, we did work a little bit on some advocacy stuff. So talk to me about why did you get involved with that? Because I don't know that I asked you. I think you were just like, hey, this is like interesting. And I was like, great, here, come with me to this meeting. So
Yeah.
tell me, walk me through that process that I probably didn't ask about when I should have.
No, I am so thankful that you pulled me into that work. I found it so interesting and insightful, and to just work and go to the Massachusetts State House and, you know, meet with some of these important people, whether it was a state senator or whatnot. I found it fascinating, the whole process, honestly. But I think I couldn't believe that the experience that I went, it was a little bit kismet in some ways, because the work that we were doing, you guys happened to be wanting to talk about step therapy, which is this insurance protocol whereby, for the listeners, whereby insurance companies make you try and fail on one or two other therapies or drugs before the insurance will pay for maybe the newer, better drug that your doctor perhaps originally prescribed you, which is exactly what happened to me. And you guys had just started on this work, and it was kind of just like meant to be. And I couldn't believe that other people had experienced it too. And as I alluded to before, I think I was a little bit unaware of my patient experience because I was in such acute pain at the time that I didn't realize how perhaps the entire trajectory of my experience could have been different had I been able to get the medication that I needed sooner. So I just thought it was really powerful that my experience was something that so many other people were going through and might continue to go through. And it was great to be able to kind of dive into it with you, speak to, you know, again, state senators or whatnot about my experience, and try to change something that I think to us seems like a pretty obvious shift that should happen. How do we make, you know, the healthcare system more patient-centric? And so, yeah, I just thought it was so interesting. I'm so happy that I was involved with it.
Good. I mean, you
Did
did
that
such
answer
a
the
great
question?
job.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah. I mean, you did such a great job with it. I mean, it wasn't until after we'd done it for a while where you're like, you know, I've never actually done this. And I was like, what? You're like, what? I remember being very surprised because you were just such a natural at telling your story that I was thinking you had done it before. And
Well,
yeah.
I guess I should also say,
I probably
mean,
should have maybe coached you a little bit. I didn't do
I know,
I didn't do
right?
shit, man. I just was
I
like,
know.
come on, let's go.
I had no PR training. I mean, look, I went to NYU for acting. I've been in the theater world forever. So I think, you know, to be doing these like local TV segments and radio and whatnot were exciting, to like be in those studios and be in those spaces from a creative aspect. And Alicia, you and I spoke about this. I also felt it difficult to be able to speak to my experience in a way that felt maybe perhaps like as raw as they wanted it to be. It just wasn't close to me at the time. I felt maybe a little bit more removed from it. So in certain instances, I think it was harder to talk about it in a way that I think they were hoping I would. Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't think that's how it translated though. I mean, I really,
Perhaps.
you know, yeah, I don't think that's the way. Cause I always felt like this is exactly how this needs to be told. This is the story that needs to be told at this moment. So
Yeah.
it really was. And you know, I'm sorry it was your story. Of course, I wish you didn't have that story, but I remember being like jackpot, you know, like I sorry, Eitan, but you know, I really was like, holy cow, this is exactly, we need somebody that can be like, this is this impactful to me that I lost 2 years of my life. Like you said, my life was on pause for 2 years. That's exactly what they need to hear. Like, can you imagine having 2 years stolen from you, you know? And so I don't know. I'm like, I'm all fired up now.
No, I'm with you. And I think at the time, Robin, you didn't know this, but I think Alicia, you did. I was also experiencing a flare up. I was diagnosed also with alopecia, which causes hair loss.
Yes.
And at the time, I basically went completely bald almost, and I decided to shave all my hair, but my hair was totally thinning out. And I think I was, of course, dealing with a lot of emotional trauma just from that. And to be able to kind of have these like moments of spotlight, both were amazing because I think it helped me forget about it, but were also duly, on the flip side, difficult because I had to rewatch myself and be like, wow, that is how my hair looked or whatever. So I think it was a mixed bag.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard part about advocacy too, is that you were exposing your soft underbelly. You know, you're like saying, this is this time that I was really sick and sad and raw, and that can be really hard because not everybody responds to it, especially with some of the media that you did. I mean, your story was very, very, very public very quickly, you know, and are you prepared for that?
I don't know. I guess I've never thought about it that way, which maybe I should. And I know even with this podcast, you're like, what are you comfortable talking about? I was like, I don't know, everything and anything. Like, I'm an open book. I'll talk about whatever. I guess maybe I've like listed any sort of shame around my experience. And I feel like we all have stories to tell. And this is part of mine. And while, yes, someone that I work with might Google me and find out, you know, I'm sure they have other stuff that they're dealing with that maybe they don't want to share and whatnot. And that's their boundary to have. But it's not like I open with this in professional settings. But sure, if people want to Google me.
I mean, I kind of might.
You
Yeah. I kind of, you know,
Great.
Talk to people first couple of sentences. Oh yeah, I have Crohn's. I mean, I feel like it needs to be on the table because I'm probably going to be going to the bathroom.
Got it. Okay.
Or I don't know.
I totally get that.
In a situation where,
I think it's good to pull out any type of like embarrassment or shame that might ensue and just level the playing field, you know? Take ownership over the experience and the moment.
We've said a couple times, everybody poops. Everybody does.
That's your bumper sticker.
Everybody poops. Bowel moments, everybody poops.
I mean, listen, he's a communications professional too.
This
so
is
maybe
true.
we'll pull you into this.
This is true.
A hashtag.
Well, and I think you know, if you're a student of Brene Brown, you really want me to be on camera.
I really do. I keep hitting the computer so that it's only on Alicia.
I just ordered a Brene Brown book.
Which one?
My very first one. Right.
I say which one? My very first one.
Which one?
Oh, which one? Something about imperfection.
The gifts of imperfection.
That's probably it.
Yeah.
Is that a good one?
It is.
Okay, good.
Last two people. Well, actually, Tiffany's episode just went down, and our next episode that we're publishing on Wednesday is also a mental health professional.
Yes.
Both of them and my therapist. At the end of one of those calls, I was like, okay, I guess I just have to buy a Brene Brown book. But it was like every single person over the course of a week was like, Robin, you need to do this work. You need to do this work on yourself. And I still haven't bought the Brene. Everyone who's listening, I still haven't bought that book yet.
I think I have it. I'll share mine with you.
I mean,
No, I mean, it's
at a certain point, it's just like annoying. It's like, okay, fine, I'll get it. I get it. She's all the rage. I'll buy the.
I mean, maybe
book.
look, she has a podcast, so maybe just listen to her podcast.
Maybe I'll just listen.
You can cheat a little bit. But I was going somewhere with this, but
I totally derailed.
Oh no, I mean her research is on shame, and part of it is really just like what shame does is it makes you feel like you're the only person that's dealing with it. That this is unique to you and makes you bad. And so all of the Brene Brown's distilled into one sentence. Shame is this, and it makes you bad. But part of her thing is that the universal way to dispel shame is by saying it, by speaking it out into the world, because inevitably, as soon as you say that, people will come and be like, oh my God, me too, you know? And so by you sort of putting it out into the ethos right away, saying like, hey, I have Crohn's disease, I guarantee you're getting people that are like, oh, cool, I can be more open and honest with you. And you're going to be more empathetic to my own idiosyncrasies and things I'm dealing with. So there you go.
That's true.
This episode is sponsored by Well. Have you ever felt overwhelmed and unsure about what questions you should ask your doctor, or if you should get a referral to a dietitian? If so, you are not alone. The dietitians over at Well help patients every day navigate these questions and many more. They've just released an amazing free resource for patients called the IBD Patient Starter Kit that is jam-packed with tips and tools to empower you to become your own best advocate. Check out the show notes or head on over to romanwell.com to download a copy of the IBD Patient Starter Kit today.
I think the world, I hope, and society as a whole, for good or for bad, people are, I think, wearing their emotions a little bit more on their sleeves these days. It's not so, putting a face on. So I think, yeah, like let's keep that going.
And I think honestly, I mean, you're quite a bit younger than us. And I do think it's your generation and sort of down that are the people that are being much more vulnerable in the way that they interact with the world. Or maybe that's it feels vulnerable to us. And for your generation, it's just being. Right. And that makes me really happy. It makes me really happy to see that. But this is not a Brene Brown podcast. So we're gonna
shift.
We're shifting.
So I am curious about a couple of things, and you can go down whichever direction you want to go at this point. So one of them is living in a place like New York, which New York City is not exactly friendly in the bathroom space. Like I've been there. I do not have IBD. And it's like, you can't pee anywhere without buying a coffee or doing something, right? That's one side I would like you to chat about. It's just in general, like living in a city atmosphere. The other thing is that you are a young person who then had to move to a place and start navigating the dating scene.
Yeah.
So you now have a wonderful partner that you've been with for a long time and you're getting married, but that didn't just happen yesterday.
Did I know this?
Yes.
Well, now you do.
She probably told me.
Sorry. So which direction would you like to go in?
Ooh, I mean, let's start with the dating stuff. I feel like it's more interesting.
I was really hoping you'd say that because I'm in.
But I can touch on the other stuff. I mean, I remember moving back to New York, wanting to just settle in and get reacclimated. And I remember that one of my biggest fears going on dates was like, oh, I might need to go to the bathroom for like an elongated period of time, whether it be like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And I didn't want anyone to think, I was embarrassed by that. And I just remember, I think you make it a bigger deal in your head than I think it is in reality. And people, especially these days, are more self-indulged than we give them credit. Like people don't mind just flipping through their phones for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like no one cares, actually, for the most part. I've never experienced to date anyone that cares that I had gone to the bathroom for too long. But I remember being really nervous about that specific fact. And I mean, I went on a ton of dates because I wanted to get into the dating scene. After about like 6 months, I wanted to get into the dating scene. And that was probably my biggest, piece. And then the other component of it all was, as a gay man, sex is just different. And you have to navigate that differently too. And you have certain things that maybe you feel more comfortable doing, or you feel more comfortable doing with a more secure partner. And I think that was also something really difficult to navigate. And another item and element that I didn't fully take in when I decided to get the surgery, that my sex life would be forever changed. And I remember like going on a lot of different forums online, which can be both good and bad.
And bad. Yes.
And bad. Yeah. It's, two sides to that coin. I remember doing a lot of like searching, and I felt really awkward even asking my gastroenterologist about that. But when I did, he was so lovely. It was a new one because I had moved to New York, and he was so supportive about it, or just about engaging in the conversation.
Good.
Totally, dispelled any sense of shame that I might have about it. And we were able to have an open dialogue, and I was able to just say out loud, like, look, this is really uncomfortable for me to talk about, but I hope you're open to me just like checking in on this topic. And he's like, oh, of course, like let's continue to talk about it whenever. So that felt good. And I had to, navigate certain moments differently. And eventually I found, my now fiance Spencer, and we started, I moved to New York in January and we started dating in September. So he was one of, a mix of guys that I was going on dates with and whatnot. But it was kind of a no-brainer after I went on my first date with him, and, there were just no games. And I don't remember it being ever a huge issue. I'm trying to remember even talking to him about it, which I guess the good thing is I don't remember it, which probably means it wasn't that traumatic. He, not so shockingly, was, I'm sure, very supportive. I do remember having to talk to him very specifically about like what I felt comfortable doing or not doing sexually. That was awkward, but I think, he had his own insecurities with sex, as I think we all do. And oh God, I also just realized I'm like screaming about sex, and I think probably like I don't actually think they're on this floor. But whatever. It's the
It's
truth.
fine. It's the truth. That's right.
I mean, you
This
are
is what we
a young
navigate.
adult.
You are.
You
I
have
know.
sex. I guarantee
I
that's
might
not a
just
surprise to
close the
them.
door. I didn't even think about that. But I'm so
I
in
thought the
it
door
with you
was
guys.
closed.
I'm so in it with you guys. Yeah, I don't remember it, but I guess I got lucky in some sense. Like 6 months in, I started dating my now fiance, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it is lucky, but I will say several people that I've talked to, like my now husband, who I was already diagnosed, living with the disease for 10 years, you know, I don't remember talking to him about it either. And
But did you?
It was, I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was like a non-issue. And so I don't want to gloss that over because I know a lot of people have that fear. And even for somebody like me, one of our other guests, Kim, we were divorced with kids and we have this IBD surgery, you know, all of these other things that go with it.
And in her case, an ostomy.
And so I'm thinking about like, I remember talking to him about a lot of things at the beginning, but I don't remember specifically saying, hey, I have this lifelong chronic illness that's not going to go away and there's no cure for, and I have to go to the bathroom a lot.
Yeah.
And like, I don't remember it ever being an issue at all. And I also want to go back to something you said about, you know, you had the conversation with what you felt comfortable doing and what you didn't feel comfortable doing.
Everybody should do that.
Everyone should do that with their partner, whether you have
Also
IBD
true.
or not. You should have an open conversation. I'm very close to the microphone and I've
Yes.
only had a half a glass of wine. Everyone should do that with their partner. You should have an open conversation with them about what you feel comfortable with and what you don't feel comfortable with and what you like and what you don't like.
Yes.
100%.
Agreed. It will honestly make the sex
so much better.
Yes.
So much better.
Sex is kind of the last taboo, right? So if you are that open with it, honestly, every other conversation seems easy, right? You know, so I think it just sort of takes away that wall that is there. But I think I love the fact that you talked to your doctor about this. And I'm curious because we had a doctor come on, Dr. Kane, from Mayo Clinic, she's very open with this, but she was also very open with the fact that the other doctors she works with and the fellows that she works with are not comfortable asking about sex. So I am wondering if you have advice for patients that feel like they would like to bring this up with this doctors and or advice for doctors on how to have this conversation. Because I do think, especially in your case, Dr. Kane that we were talking to is a woman talking to women. For the most part, she has that. So you're the first man we've had come on that has talked openly about sex with us. So I'm gonna make you do that more.
Yes.
So,
I think as a patient, I mean, sex specifically, but honestly, regardless, you need to feel empowered to ask your doctor any and every question on the books. You just have to. I mean, knowledge is power, and you can look at all the websites and all the, forums and whatnot, but it's good to ask your doctor and have a conversation about it. What advice would I give them? I mean, I think you just have to push yourself. I think sometimes when you let it out into space, you're releasing a sense of, once again, shame, perhaps, that you feel around the topic, and you're just putting it out there. And also, what an amazing forum to have a confidential conversation with another human being who isn't intimately aware with your life, but is able to provide advice about it. Like, I think what a healthy forum to talk about anything. And I think with sex specifically, I don't know, maybe you guys feel differently. I feel like sex isn't spoken about, I mean, in general, but specifically in the IBD community, which is a little surprising given how much I would think it impacts so many of us.
Right.
Yep.
So that's surprising. And I think for doctors, if you are not prepared to talk about any and every topic, especially if you're a gastroenterologist and probably see the most disgusting things ever, then you need to reconsider what you're doing. Seriously though, because I think there's an element of therapy that doctors need to have training in, that patient doctor dialogue. But I think patients are just looking for a partner and someone to maybe just speak to on a confidential level. So even if you're not comfortable talking about it as a doctor, just lend an ear, or offer other spaces that they can talk about it or gain more advice on if you don't feel comfortable talking to it.
Yeah. Dr. Kane was really quick to say that she asks, she doesn't wait for patients to come to her, that she says, how's this going? She puts it right out into the world.
Good.
So
Yeah.
I
I
appreciate
mean,
it.
I would say that's even better. Like,
Right.
is this something that you've thought about or want to talk about? And
Yeah.
if the person says no, great.
Exactly. Thumbs up.
You know
Let's
their
go.
boundary. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Or
Um,
things are working for them. So cool. But at
Right.
least now they also know that you are asking about it. So if something starts to not be okay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
then there you go. It's an open door
Yeah.
at least.
And I think, I mean, for me, I feel like the gay community is a little bit hypersexualized, and some people own it, some people don't. And I think there was added layers of emotional and mental stuff going on there for myself. And I think for perhaps a lot of gay men living in New York City. And so that also kind of played into a lot of this additional kind of, I can't think of the words now that I have my glass of wine. The additional, medical stuff, real stuff that was going on in my life. They were kind of intertwined in this kind of mental mind fuck that, thank God for therapy.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like
the episode that dropped recently is with a therapist who works with people with chronic illnesses. And we're thrilled because
Amazing.
this is a hot topic for us.
Yeah, we talk
Yes.
about therapy a lot on
So
this
much.
show.
Probably more than we should. It's a little
Good.
embarrassing.
It's so important. It's so important. And not just if you have a chronic illness, if you're
No.
Joe Schmo on the street,
Yeah.
go see it, like anyone and
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, in one of our recent episodes too, Dr. Taft was talking about medical trauma and how that plays, how easy it is to basically be traumatized by your experiences in the hospitals and in the medical system. And and some of the stuff she brought up, I'm like, that makes sense that this would be traumatizing to somebody. So I'm glad that she brought that up. I'm going to switch gears again on you. You mentioned acting, and I didn't actually know your background was in theater. I totally thought it was in communications, which is your profession now, but
Yes.
are you acting? Like, is this still part of your life?
So it isn't. I mean, the love of it will always be there. I think towards the end of college, I realized I just wanted something maybe slightly more stable. I think I also had a few very real conversations with myself that just said there are so many good people out there. And I don't know if I'm at the cream of the crop. I mean, I did go to NYU and I got into their acting school, so I was doing something right, but I was real with myself. I just thought that there were better people out there. And I don't think I had as much of the drive as maybe some of my other friends did at the time. And so I was teetering on the edge. And then this all happened, and talk about wanting stability. I just felt like it did kind of give me the nudge that maybe I needed coming out of school and out of this whole experience to think, I want something else. And so I went into other elements of the entertainment industry for a short stint, and then jumped into PR and then into healthcare communications and nonprofit a little bit, and now back into kind of like the agency marketing world.
Well, I mean, health insurance is oftentimes not prevalent among our acting community, which is a shame.
Yes, that too, and was very real. I mean, I probably knew more about insurance than most of my friends as I was not 26 anymore and had to realize I had to pay for it myself. But it was a very real eye-opening experience because I was like, wow, I see a lot of specialists, and I have 2 autoimmune diseases, and I have other medical items that I have to take care of. And so there's just a lot there that I wanted to make sure would be covered. And so I shifted. I don't miss it in terms of the grind, but I love theater. My fiance was also a professional Broadway actor, now turned teacher during the pandemic. And so, we're kind of finding our way.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah. It's a fun little roadmap. BFA in drama.
Love it.
BFA all the way. Yeah.
The time is running out.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here listening. I don't even feel like
I
I've
know.
asked any questions. I'm just looking at you and
I
falling in love.
I can't believe it either. I'm kind of in shock that it's passed so much.
I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, when can I go to New York?
Come.
Honestly,
so
I'm
Peter
just
is
sitting
back.
here like, I feel like we need to just go to New York.
Yeah, our next work trip.
Our next work
Yes.
trip will be to New York.
We love it. We love a good work trip to New York.
And then we could do part 2 with you
yes.
in person.
That would
Yes.
be so fun.
Yeah, that'd be
Yes.
amazing. Let's
I
do
love
that.
it.
With lots more wine.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
A big giant bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe 3, one for each of us with straws.
Oh, I like that
Perfect.
even better.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
Full of good ideas.
Okay. I really was just sitting here thinking, when can I go to New York? Okay. Last question that we ask all of our guests is, what is the one, we've talked about a lot of things on this show today.
Yeah.
And time has just flown by, but what is like the one thing that you would want to make sure that anyone listening takes away from our conversation? Like, what is the one thing that you want to share from your experience with the IBD community?
I mean, to distill it to one thing, I think for me, a lot of it, when I think about my story, I think a lot of it has to do with perspective. And I have a friend that once, I'm going to totally butcher the saying, but there's just something about what's happening right now. How will you feel about it in 1 week, in 1 month, in 1 year, in 10 years? There's some beautiful saying that's much better than that, but that's the gist of it. And I know for me, what I felt like was going to last forever, you know, if I thought 1 year and then 5 years and then 10 years, I mean, look now, the way that I have the perspective on it is just totally different than it was when I was in the acute pain that I was in. And so as difficult as it might be, I think just know that, you know, your perspective is everything and can benefit you probably in the hardest of times.
Yeah. Well, and I think you also mentioned when you sent her this questionnaire that, and you've already alluded to this quite a bit, but like that you are in charge of your healthcare, that even if you absolutely love your doctor, you've got.
Oh, yes. I remember now that you actually asked me this question in the questionnaire. I'm like, what did I answer? But yes, that's another critical thing.
It is critical. And I'm going to let you get into that. But perspective is so important because it is temporary. So while it may be just overwhelming at the time, it's still temporary.
I hope so. And I want to be sensitive when saying that, you know, because some people do struggle for a really long time. And I don't want to minimize that.
No, well, you said 2 years. I mean, in 22 years, I've had multiple flares. I've had multiple surgeries. I've had multiple, but even if it lasts 2 years, it's still temporary. So, and again, we don't want to we're not diminishing anything that you're experiencing right now. I want to give you hope.
Yes.
But that's why I think it's important for people like you guys to tell your stories because 2 years feels like a really long time, especially when you're 20, right? Oh shit.
And you're in the middle of it. If you're at the beginning of the 2 years, you're like, oh, this is going to be for the rest of my life.
Yes.
You know, and I'm on the other side of that at 22 years and it's not, it's just a portion.
Yes. Yeah. And I've taken that into other, I'd say like medical experiences that I've had separate from IBD. So I think it's really critical. And then the other piece.
Yes.
I know you asked for one. But yes, the second one is the healthy skepticism that I think every patient, every person should bring in with them to a doctor's office. Respectfully, of course, they've gone through numerous years of training, but you need to take ownership over your own health. And sometimes it's important to have healthy skepticism.
Yeah. I mean, we've said this, I think that one of the most recent episodes that we were talking about, which I think it's the one I'm editing now. I mean, Robin was like, you are the captain of your healthcare team. Like this is your body. This is your life, not theirs. And so going in with that skepticism and saying, okay, but why am I taking this? And is this really the right fit for me is a really great advice.
Yeah.
I want to, since we have just a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
One of the things you put on your questionnaire, your fun fact, really, I was like, holy cow, bring on the hot goss. You used to work with celebrities.
Oh, yes.
So can you, because I realize there's also probably lots of things that you signed confidentiality-wise, but can you share some hot goss from your stint working with celebrities?
Yes. I'm a ginormous tennis fan. I have been since I was like 10 years old. It started because I would just watch Wimbledon every July 4th weekend because we'd always go on vacation during that time. And I'd always watch Wimbledon. And then from there, it just expanded, watched the US Open. And then I watched the smaller tournaments and I got really into it. And so I've always just been the biggest tennis buff. And I had the opportunity when I worked in the PR world to work with a hotel and a few different nightlife bars, clubs. And we hosted Serena Williams' bachelorette weekend. And it was the most, I couldn't believe that I was going to not only meet her, but spend kind of the weekend with her.
Right.
Like bringing her from the hotel to one of our venues for her dinner, to another venue for her club, and like really being with her for the whole 360. And not just her sister Venus. She had just given birth to her daughter, and her mother and her manager, who I knew from watching so many matches and seeing Ciara was there, and Lala Anthony was there. And I made a gift bag for Beyonce, who was supposed to attend, but dropped out like a week before. But I literally was wrapping her, like they made custom pajama sets, and I literally wrapped a Beyonce pajama set for her. It was crazy. I will never forget it. I truly can't believe it actually happened, and it'll be a thing I never forget. So that was one really, really cool experience. There are a few others as well, but that's probably highlight of life, honestly.
That is so fun. And now you guys are best friends.
That's right.
Now we're best friends, and she's inviting me to Wimbledon, which is playing in the next month. I wish. But it's like, it's kind of crazy that it happened.
That is super fun, especially since you're such a tennis fan. I mean, like, that's really cool.
Yeah, so cool. Yes. Pretty crazy, pretty fun.
I have had friends in that industry though. And while, yes, you have these very cool moments, it is also a hard ass job.
It's a hard ass job. And at the end of the day, and why I left it was like, it's just that. It's cool. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, so I wanted maybe a little bit more in my life than just cool. Yeah. And so that's why I shifted more. You know, I loved what I was doing in nonprofit, but I loved the kind of like the marketing aspect of things. And so I kind of combined those to find, you know, communications and marketing in the healthcare space. And that's what I'm doing now.
Well, Eitan, I know you have to go, and I'm sad about that because I would love to talk to you for at least 3 more hours, I think.
I know. I can't believe it's been a full hour. Like, I actually can't believe it. Yes.
Eitan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both. Hey, this is Eitan. If you liked this episode, check us out wherever you listen to your podcast and share it with a friend.